We are into the phase of talking about some final concepts on Apex and understanding uh, you know, those concepts of Apex which you need to keep in mind while you write Apex, right? So first such concept is governor limit. Okay, what is governor limit? Governor limit is basically a very simple concept where Salesforce puts a limit on everything. Whatever can be done within Salesforce has a limit, right? And which should be there, right? So declarative, non-declarative, whatever you can do with programming, without programming, everything has a limit, right? How many records you can save, what is your data storage, how many emails you can send in a day, everything has a limit, okay? Now, Salesforce by default controls all the limits for things which are done through declarative methods. Like, if we are talking about workflow rules, then how many emails can be sent using workflow rules in a day? That is already set, okay? And anything in excess to that will not be sent. So, let's say the limit is 1000 per day. So, if the limit is 1000 per day, if you have already sent 1000 emails on a certain day through workflow rules, automatically the mails got triggered and they are sent, then no more emails will be sent, right? So for things which are not done with the Apex part, microphones on mute please. Yeah, thank you. Things which are not done using Apex, for everything the limits are already there and they work absolutely fine. However, because Apex is something where we are writing the logic, it's important for us to understand some of the limits and work within those limits, all right, so that our code works properly while we are actually executing it. Practically working the code should work, okay? So governor limit is something which is very important while you're writing a code. It is always a good practice to keep in mind the governor limits and write the code in such a way so that it does not it works within all those limits which are defined, right? So that is what we try to do using the governor limits, okay? So just give me 1 second, let me show you what exactly governor limit and what kind of governor limits we have. Okay, so here is a link. I'm going to share this link with you. So today, because I'm going to talk about a few concepts, and I'm also going to share some of these, very useful links where you will get the details. Okay. So I just want you to understand the concepts. You don't need to mug up all the limits and stuff like that. You just need to understand what is governor limit and keep this link for reference, right? Whenever you want use some of the governor limits in the code, you can actually refer back to it and stuff like this. All right. So this is a link on the governor limit. Now, what is a governor limit? Because Apex runs in a multi-tenant environment, the Apex runtime engine strictly enforces a number of limits. So Salesforce, by default enforces some limits on us to ensure that runaway Apex doesn't monopolize shared resources, because the resources are being shared. So it's very important for them that any code does not monopolize all the available resources. Okay, because everyone's application is running on the same platform, and they do not want that someone writes a code, because other things are already controlled by Salesforce. For everything else apart from Apex, Salesforce has written the program, right? They are the ones who have written the program. Now for that, what happens, they have taken care of things. So whatever is the limit, it will go to that limit, and then it will stop doing that, right? But because Apex is a place where we are the ones who are writing the logics and the programs and the methods and executions, it needs to be taken care of that, or Salesforce needs to enforce these limits very, very strictly on the Apex part, especially, right? And they just need to, they make sure that someone's Apex does not monopolize the resources. Let's say Sridhar has written a code, and he has not written it efficiently, right? And he has actually, started a loop which is, a never-ending loop. I mean, if you guys have worked on some programming in, earlier stages, you might have come across these kind of situations. The loop has got started and it's not ending. Or, he's trying to upload 10 million records at once. Trying to, perform an insert operation which inserts 10 million records. So these kind of codes can actually hamper the performance of your application as well as the entire platform, right? So that is the reason why these governor limits. Okay, so there are some limits that are there. Okay, so some we will just see some of them and try and understand those. Like total number of SOQL queries which can be issued in a transaction is 100. Okay, so these are synchronous, what do you say, SOQL queries. Okay, asynchronous limit is 200. Okay, I'll talk about asynchronous. So let's just not worry about the asynchronous thing right now. So whatever Apex trigger and Visual Force pages buttons methods we have executed, those are all synchronous. Okay, that is not asynchronous. So synchronous SOQL queries issued limit is 100, which means in one transaction you can have 100 SOQL queries issued. You cannot have more than that. You cannot say that, okay, fine, I will have 500 SOQL queries running in one transaction. That will not happen. Okay. That includes the queries within the loop. So if you have SOQL query inside a loop, you should make sure, or you should, let's say, if you're writing something like this for, let's say, whatever opportunity O in some select statement, select. Okay. Now, if this loop runs more than 100 times, then it's going to be an error. Okay, because there's going to be a single transaction. Okay, so the same way, you cannot have more than 100 SOQL queries issued in one transaction. Okay, these are all per transaction Apex limits. Okay, the number of records retrieved by SOQL query. Okay, so 100 SOQL queries are permitted. What is the number of records which can be retrieved in one SOQL query? So one SOQL query can retrieve 50,000 records. Okay, which means one select statement, select whatever, should not return more than 50,000 records. Okay, one SOQL query, right? Total number of SOSL queries issued is 20. SOSL is different, right? We talked about SOSL. So SOSL queries can only be issued 20 in a transaction, because SOSL, we understand, is something which performs a search on all the objects, right? So limit for SOSL is lesser. And total number of records retrieved by a single social query is 2000. Got this? So these are the kind of limits. So we just, while we are actually working with our Apex code, we just need to keep these things in mind that, okay, if you are writing an SOQL query which you plan to, retrieve 1 million records from there, that's not the correct way. So it can maximum return 50,000 records. If you are using multiple SOQL queries or multiple SOSL queries in one transaction, you just need to keep in mind that if it can only issue 20 SOSL and 100 SOQL queries, right? Okay. Total number of DML statements issued in a transaction can be 150. So if you have any DML statement, we know what is a DML statement, right? DML statement is data manipulation. So any insert, update, or delete statement, if we have, maximum number of DML statements which we can have is 150. Okay, so it's always again advisable that you try and keep your DML statement outside the loop, because if you put the DML statement inside the loop, then it might not be a very good option because your loop runs. So, one simple way of handling these governor limits is try to keep DML statement and SOQL queries outside the loop, okay, wherever possible. Try to keep them outside the loop so that you do not hit the governor limit very quickly. All right. So if you have insert statement, better try to do an insert outside the loop. All right. Okay. So total number of DML statements is this thing, and so 1 minute. Yeah, DML statement issued is 150. Total number of records processed as a result of DML statements is 10,000. Okay. So total number of records which can be processed as as a result of the DML statements is 10,000. So you cannot process more than 10,000 records in one single transaction. Okay. Then you see this one. Total number of send email methods allowed. We use a send email method. I think the last example we were talking about, send email, not more than 10 in one transaction. There is a daily limit also. Okay, so not more than 10. So you cannot have too many send email methods being used. Again, if you have used a send email inside a loop, chances are there that you will quickly hit the governor limit, right? So these are a few governor limits. Okay, so while we are writing the code, we just need to make sure that we are actually working in such a way so that we do not hit the governor limits very quickly. All right.
Jeet, I have a question. Can I ask?
Yep.
So when the statement that we shouldn't use more than 10, I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean that we can only, no, that can't be true. I was thinking, can we only send 10 emails? That can't be true.
No.
Does it mean
No.
that we can't use the send method 10 times in that
10,
one
yeah,
transaction?
you cannot call that method more than 10 times in one transaction. Okay.
Okay.
So send email method is if you're calling that method more than 10 times in a transaction, then it will have an issue. It's not about 10 email IDs. Okay, one send email
Right.
method can send 50 emails also. We have two addresses, this thing, that's a list of
I get
string,
it.
right? But the method
Yes,
can
thank
be
you.
called for 10 times, correct? And then
I
there
got
is
it.
a limit on how many emails can be sent. That limit is also there. In a day, how many you can send and all that, that is also there. If you scroll down a little, you will find it. I actually do not want you guys to get too much into the details of governor limit because there are certain things which are too complex, but inbound emails. Yeah. So outbound emails, okay, single mail and mass mail, this is the limit. So for a professional edition, you just have 250 emails which can be sent in a day. Unlimited edition can send only 1000 emails in a day. All right. So that's the limit for number of emails, but that is different. Here, what we are talking about is how many times that method can be called, any send email method. All right. Okay. Now, I'll talk about a small example and show you how we can actually avoid these governor limits. Before that, I just want to talk about another concept. Now, I said governor limit is something which works on a certain transaction, right? Now you must be thinking, what is a transaction? I talked about transaction so much, so let's understand what is a transaction actually. So, just Okay, so here is the link for Apex transaction for you to understand what is an Apex transaction. But I will, just to explain it to you in very simple words. It's a set of operations which happen as a group or do not happen. Okay, so an Apex transaction represents a set of operations that are executed as a single unit. Okay, so either they are all executed or they are all rolled back. That is a transaction. Okay, all DML operations in a transaction either complete successfully, or if an error occurs in one operation, the entire transaction is rolled back and no data is committed to the database. So this is the thing. So the boundary for a transaction can be, this is a nice thing. The boundary for a transaction can be a trigger. So either a trigger completely gets executed or it rolls back the entire data. Okay, a class method, okay, an anonymous block of code, a Visualforce page. So it will not happen that your half of the Visualforce will get loaded and half will not get loaded. If there is an error, the entire thing gets rolled back, right? If you click on a button, either the method will completely get executed or it will not get executed. It will not happen that half of it will get executed. Like the other day, we did an example for the wizard. If you guys remember, there was a button that we created, and on that click of the button, the account gets created, then the opportunity gets created, and then the contact gets created. Remember that one, right? So that method was a transaction. So in that case, either all three of them will get created or none of them will get created. It will not happen that your account got created and opportunity has an error and that does not get created. Remember that one, the example? So we did an account insert, opportunity insert, and then there was a contact insert. Something like this we did, right? So initially what was happening there? So this is a good example which can help you understand a transaction. So what happens is you insert the account, right? Accounts gets into the database. First of all, account is created in the database. So here these are the steps. Account gets created, ID generated. We pass on the ID to contact. Contact created. Fine. ID is generated for it. Now imagine if, so these two are already in the database now. Now after this, if opportunity, the third one, while it is getting inserted, if there is an error, then what do you think? What will happen? Opportunity definitely does not get created. But what do you think? Account and contact will remain in the database or they will be rolled back? They will be rolled back, which means removed. All right, there is no point because that is a complete transaction. So that has to either take place completely or should not, if there is an error. So in that case, these two steps will also be rolled back. Correct. So that is what a transaction is. So an Apex trigger is a transaction. A method is a transaction. Method either gets executed completely or is completely rolled back. It will not happen that half of the method got executed and after that, if it finds error, it will leave it as it is. No, it gets rolled back. A Visualforce page is a transaction. So this is what a transaction is. Please let me know if anyone is not clear about what a transaction is. Clear on the transaction thing? Okay. Now, since we have just talked about transaction, so these per transaction governor limits are for this one, for a transaction. So when I say 100 SOQL queries can be executed, that's about one method. Okay. So that is how it is. So inside one method, you can have 100 SOQL queries running. So no one will type 100 SOQL queries, but that will definitely come through the loops. So that is a limit which comes into picture when you are putting a SOQL query inside a loop, right? Usually we don't type 100 SOQL queries one by one, right? So that is it. So that's about Apex transactions. All right, clear on this? Any questions, doubts? I think this is a simple concept, not very difficult. Okay, now coming to the next concept. So since we are talking about transaction, I would also want to talk to you about the order of execution. Okay, so how things are executed, or what is the order of execution in terms of when you are trying to update some data or insert some data into the Salesforce. So what happens first and what check happens and all that stuff. Okay, so give me a moment. These are simple concepts, but very useful, and you might have small concept based questions from these things. Okay, so the moment you say that you have got some experience on Salesforce, it is expected that you are able to answer some of these questions, right? So it's the best thing is that why I'm sharing these links with you is you don't have to do much of work. You can just read the first 2 or 3 lines of each of these link and mug it up. That's it. So anyone asks what is a transaction, you don't have to spend 2-3 minutes in thinking about what is a transaction and saying oh, actually this, actually that. Most of the times what happens is while I do some mock interviews, I see people actually struggling to explain the concepts. Best is what I feel is mug it up. An Apex transaction represents a set of operations and stuff like that. Okay, fine. That will give you confidence during your interview. So for the same goes with the governor limit. You can have a question of what is a governor limit. If you know a few common governor limits, and if you know the definition from here, I think you are good. You don't need to know all the governor limits. You saw that I also do not remember all the governor limits. We always refer to this document. Okay. Okay. The third concept, triggers and order of execution. What is this order of execution? Order of execution is in what order a trigger is executed, or any other method is executed, right? So it's a very simple order. What here they have written is a long story. I will just tell you this in a very short manner. Okay. Okay. So you just need to keep the simple thing in mind. First thing which works is a before trigger. So all your before trigger check will be done. We have written before trigger, before insert, before update. Remember that? Before trigger is checked first of all. Okay. If there is an error there, that's it. It does not go further. Alright. So before trigger is the one which is checked first, which is executed first. Then the system validations. Okay. So system validate. What is the system validation? System validation is anything which is which are predefined validations. Predefined validations are like if you are entering an incorrect field type, instead of phone number you are putting text, or instead of a required field you have left blank. So these are all system validations, default validations. Okay, so something which you have not defined. These are all system validations. Okay, so before trigger, then other system validations. Then comes the custom validations. So this custom validations includes all the rules that you have defined, the validation rules that you have defined. All right. So first of all, the before triggers are executed, all the before trigger statements, then the system validations, the ones which are predefined validations, then the custom validations are checked if there is a validation rule error and stuff like that. Then after trigger statements are executed, after triggers, after insert and all that stuff. Okay, then your out of the box rules are executed. What is this out of the box? Everything like a workflow rule, assignment rule, and stuff like that. Okay, so I'll just club all these things in under one. So any assignment, rule, workflow, okay, okay. After this, you will have okay. So all these assignment rules, workflow rules, and stuff like this works here. Okay, and then the data is committed. And before this, sorry, here data is inserted into the database. So this is a simple thing. Okay, step one, before trigger statements get executed. Step two, all system validations. Step three, all custom validations. If these three are fine, there's no issue with this. The data is created into the database. Okay, but it is not committed to the database. All right, so it is created, but it is created temporarily. The previous example I was just telling you that account gets created and after that it's rolled back, right? So this is the stage where the data is created, all right, but it's not committed. It's like a temporary create, all right. So the data is created in the database. After that, after triggers work and the out of the box function rules, functionalities like assignment rules, workflow rules. If there's a rule of assigning the record to a particular owner, that thing works there. Fine. And after these rules are executed, data is committed to the database. All right. So that is the thing. So for example, try and understand this. If there are 100 records to be inserted, through a trigger. So trigger runs in a loop, right? One by one records are getting inserted, let's say 100 of them. Now after 40 records, 40 got inserted. After that, the 41st record has an error. Then what will happen? All these 40 will also get rolled back, right? That is what we understand by now. So these 40 records, while they are created initially, they are at this stage. All right. So trigger key. Hello, can you hear me? All right. Yeah, so we are just talking about this example. Let's say there are 100 records which need to be, inserted through a trigger. So trigger will either execute as a complete transaction or it will not execute at all, right? Uh, the entire set of records will get rolled back, right? Now, let's say 41st record has an error. So before that, 40 records are inserted into the system, right? But when 41st record has an error, then all those 40 will also be rolled back, right? So initially these 40 records are just created, or you can also call it saved. So these are saved in the database but not committed. Okay, so initially these 40 records will be saved in the database but they will not be committed. When only when all the records in the transaction go through this stage, then the DML operations are committed to the database. When it finds that, okay, fine, this entire transaction is okay, there is no scope of rolling it back, then the database data commitment happens. Okay, the DML statement is committed only at this stage for all the records at once. Okay, any rollback should happen here, from here. Clear on this? So that is the order of execution, right? After this data commitment, so while we are talking about workflow rules,